Back on Get Up, we got the Grizzlies, we got the Heat last night. That's Ja Morant. Earlier in the day, he had been warned by the NBA about using that finger gun gesture. This is 4 minutes into the first quarter last night, and Alan, there it is, as clear as can be.
Yeah, so the warning didn't work. What's next?
Well, we're going to ask Shams that question in a moment. Again, this was 4 minutes into the game. Meanwhile, let's show you the game because there was enormous drama in this, and as you would expect, Ja Morant was in the middle of all of it. Here he is with a dunk in the fourth quarter to untie the game and give the Grizzlies a 2-point lead. 20 seconds left, down by 2. Miami Tyler Hero ties the game at 108. 5 seconds left, of course, on the night where everyone was talking about something else. Ja Morant winds up making a buzzer beater that gets a friendly roll and goes for Memphis to get the win. And he's fired up, and his father is fired up, and everyone is excited as he makes the great move, scores 30 points on the night, and the Grizzlies, who've been struggling, wind up getting the win by a deuce. And so he comes up big in the clutch. But that isn't what anyone was talking about after the game last night or this morning. It's all conversation about the finger gun gesture that he made again. And let me add the context to this in case you were not aware. Ja Morant has a history with firearms that is well documented. March of 2023, it began with a video of him at a nightclub holding a gun. Commissioner Adam Silver ended up suspending him 8 games for the incident. 2 months later, he was seen again in a video brandishing a firearm. Adam Silver came down harder, suspending him for the first 25 games of the following season. Then we had the warning yesterday, and then immediately, again, 4 minutes into the action, he makes that finger gun gesture again. Morant was asked about it afterwards. I have the quote for you here about the reaction. This is about the criticism he has faced. He said, quote, "I'm kind of used to it. I was pretty much a villain for 2 years now. Every little thing, if somebody can say something negative about me, it's going to be out there. So yeah, I don't care no more." Those were the quotes on this from Ja Morant last night. Let me start with my insider extraordinaire. Shams, obviously the league reacted to this yesterday, and now it happens again. What can you tell us?
Greeny, the NBA league office obviously is aware. There's no word yet on anything further here, but on Thursday, Wednesday, there was an investigation that took place. The NBA spoke to Ja Morant, also Buddy Hield, members, parties involved with the Warriors and the Grizzlies, and they concluded that the best route here was issuing warnings. They told every party involved, from the players to the teams, that these were inappropriate gestures, refrain from using them, but they were told by players and teams as well that there was no violence intended by this. But of course, as we see on that same day, Ja Morant clearly does the gesture again. It is a common celebration. There are players in the past that have done it, but this is obviously a complex situation here given the context.
Windman, what are the right things to say today?
Yeah, look, you could have a debate and discussion about whether the NBA should be legislating hand gestures. What this is about Ja Morant sticking his finger in the eye of the league office, which is he heard what they said. They said, don't do it again. He did it 4 minutes into the game. In a situation, by the way, where his team had lost 7 out of 8 games and had completely lost traction and had fallen to the play-in zone. He came into that game with the intent of sending a message to the league office. And that is just, I'm going to tell you something. One of the ways you can guarantee getting a reaction from the league office is by embarrassing them and trying to show them up. If you do it subtly, you can get in trouble. If you do it overtly like this, you're going to get in real trouble. And if you've got a history of Ja Morant of listening to the league office, telling Adam Silver something straight to his face, and then doing the opposite a few minutes later, that's not going to be well received. And it is exactly the opposite of what the Grizzlies need when they're under so much stress right now, having a coaching change, having a losing streak, dealing with the pressure of all this playoff situations, and having a great moment where the Heat had won 6 games in a row. They go into Miami and get a great win. And now this is what the league and the team is now waiting for. Not who they're playing next, but what there's going to be in sort of adjudication from this.
Jay Will, what's your perspective on it?
Grinny, if gun gestures cross the line, then the NBA needs to draw the line. All right? They need to set the standard and then ban all gun gestures, regardless of whether you're on the floor or on the bench. I am not sitting up here on national TV absolving Ja Morant of mocking the commissioner. That will be met with some type of penalty. Two things can be true at the same time, okay? But the amount of NBA games I go to that I've seen NBA players, whether it's clock, baba, they do all these different things, celebrations after shots. Then if it's causing this much controversy, once again, not excusing the context for Ja Morant, then ban all gun gestures. Clean house, full stop. A lot of NBA players do this. Some of the most recognizable players in the game of basketball do this. So create legislation where it stops it completely. That's my biggest takeaway.
Alan?
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about it earlier, Jay wasn't specific with gestures. When you said this morning, Jay has banned all gestures, we don't want to go that far. But what you're saying there is something that we see in other leagues. So it's obviously something that should have already been handled, hasn't. But in the case of Ja Morant, it's, again, a frustrating part of a player who has been celebrated, who is somebody that is fun to watch when he's on the floor. And I have to stress on the floor because lately he has not been the last couple of seasons. And his lack of accountability and lack of humility in this situation, that's a bigger concern for the league, goes beyond gestures. It's a young rising star in the league as we're looking for who's going to be among the next stars of the league, doing exactly this, exactly what Brian said. And that's a bigger problem that I have. And for him to now make it become the victim in this whole thing is absolutely ridiculous.
Do I have Graziano? Because that point that Alan just made was brought up in our meeting. Dan Graziano, our NFL insider, when we were talking about this in our meeting this morning, you immediately jumped in with something that I think is relevant here.
Well, I think I waited a respectful amount of time rather than immediately jumping in, but that's okay. What I said was the NFL has already banned this, right? The gestures that are violent or sexually explicit in nature are banned by the NFL, and it lists specific ones like a throat slash or mimicking shooting a gun. Or they just added one, the CeeDee Lamb celebration. That's the nose wipe gesture that apparently they say has gang connotations. So they'll throw a 15-yard penalty flag. I don't know what the NBA equivalent of that would be, but yes, you can be. The NFL has made it very clear under their policy regarding sportsmanship and professionalism that they don't want these gestures in the game.
So, Jay Will, is that the kind of thing that you're talking about, that you're suggesting the NBA needs to do to make sure there is a clear line here and it's not just for Ja Morant because of his particular history involving guns, but that it is just something that the league will not tolerate from players?
Yes, Granny. I think there needs to be a clear line of demarcation. And I want to say something because I feel passionate about it. I think the league has to be somewhat careful here. It is a slippery slope to a degree, right? Because the league has embraced culture. And once again, for all these players, I want them to recognize something. When you see young boy NBA, right, and he's part of the fabric of the culture that I hear young players talk about. When you see Pooh Shiesty, when you see all these different guys, Little Dirk, that literally they're in jail, or Little Dirk just got out of jail for these same gun-related incidents. We have to be careful skirting the line here on what's culturally acceptable that the league has allowed, because it allows them to tap into a different demographic and allows them to continue to build into the fan base. This is a real thing here that the league has to be careful about. That's why rather than just set the line.